Hello there, gorgeous yogis and yogis. This evening, well, we've still got a little bit of light. I've put on as many lights as I can. I'm just going to share with you a practice that you can do if, for any reason, your hips or your knees are needing a little bit of TLC, but you find it more challenging to get up and down from the mat a lot. So this practice dedicated to beautiful Lorena, who asked for this. So we're going to start with a little Kati Chakrasana, which is the ragdoll Kati Chakrasana. So with the feet nice and wide apart and just bouncing into the knees a little bit, if that feels good, to settle the feet down. And then once you feel that you've secured your feet to your floor or your mat, then stopping in the middle and gently twisting from side to side. This movement should feel, hopefully, this movement feels really nice and releasing, but not hard or painful. And of course, in yoga, we're looking for a practice that means that we don't get any increase of the discomfort that we come to our practice with, and no sharp pain or numbness or tingling as the result of our practice. So if any of those things happen, just resting down, resting out, and contacting me or another yoga teacher for a little bit more guidance. So here, allowing your abdominal muscles to draw inwards and upwards, allowing the pelvic floor perhaps to be gently engaged. Letting your head follow your movement. So the head doesn't leave the movement, it's the chest. The head just stays nicely on top of the spine. And taking note of how this feels, particularly in your lower body. The arms are loose, the shoulders relax, the fingers and hands relax. And hopefully you can relax your face as well with a little smile. So if you find that there's a little twist on the knee that's unpleasant, then allowing your feet to pivot as you move. And that is a little kinder, a little softer on the knees. I'm sorry, my cockerel is crowing outside, so you might hear him as well on the video. One of our cockerels, we have to. Gentle pivot from side to side. We're trying to stir up or awaken the energy in the body here. So which gets a little stuck and stagnated if we spend a lot of time in one posture or one position. Or if you've been holding on to a lot of tension, a lot of worry, anxiety, or possibly anger or frustration during your day, you can have a lot of tension in your body to release. So you don't need to practice Kati Chakrasana for this long, but you can if you want to. And if you don't have any trouble with your knees, you can add a little soft bend in the knee, in the center of the movement before you twist to either side. And that helps to awaken the larger muscles, gets our blood flowing as well, and allows the body to warm up gently. So to begin releasing this movement, we're going to stop doing the bouncing bend and then bring our feet to a standstill and then sway our bodies to a standstill. So you finish with maybe a moment of just observing the effect of your practice, the tingling, the sensation of vibration through the body. Maybe you feel a little bit taller or a little bit freer in your movement. And then you might have your feet turned out. And if your feet enjoy being turned out, that's okay, just not all the way. If you prefer to straighten your feet, then you can do that too. And when you're practicing standing, we want to avoid particularly when you've had knee replacement surgery, want to avoid locking the knees out. So locking the knees very, very straight. And that applies to people who are very mobile in their knees as well, hypermobility or hyperflexibility. So instead of locking the knees out, we bring a soft bend to the knee. So you're not bending your knees, they're only just off straight. The soft bend to the knee encourages all of the musculature around the knees and in the hips to work. So it encourages your pelvic floor to engage, your buttocks to gently engage, the quadriceps here at the front of the thighs, the hamstrings, and the muscles in the low legs like the, oh, I don't know if the gastrocnemius does. Let's just call it the muscles of the lower legs. Engage gently, and encourages a little bit of engagement in the abdominal muscles too. So instead of locking the knees straight, which some people feel that they ought to do, which in fact just makes us hang on the ligaments that attach our joints together, we're going to create that softness in the knee that encourages the muscles to work instead. And here, rolling the shoulders. So whenever you're carrying discomfort in your body, it's possible that you might feel it in your shoulders. We tend to tense the shoulders when we're in pain. So anytime you get the opportunity, just rolling them out. We'll go the opposite way as well. And the other place that we hold tension is our face. So if you find yourself clenching your jaw or pressing your tongue really forcefully into the roof of your mouth, or just creating a little bit of a frown across your forehead, soften the features of your face. Let's take the fingertips to the shoulders. We'll do elbow circles, elbows towards each other and up, elbows back and down. So just carrying on with this movement while I explain a bit more about the face. So the tension we release from our faces is tension that we release from other places in the body. So the face is like a mirror for what's happening in the body. And if you watch people, you'll be able to notice this as well. The tension in their faces usually indicates what else is going on for them in their minds and in their bodies. Let's reverse this movement. Elbows back and up, opening the chest. Elbows towards each other, touching if you can, and down. So when you feel tense, softening the features of your face. If you feel anxious, if you've got pain, softening and relaxing the face, and it helps the body to ease and mind too. And you don't have to smile, just aiming for relaxed. Okay, we'll do one more this way. And release the arms down to the side. If you want to do any more shoulder movements up and down or rolling the shoulders open, then you can, absolutely. And so here we have an opportunity to do some standing work, but we're going to sit down first. So part of the problem with having hips that are perhaps having a little wear and tear, or knees with a little wear and tear, is the getting up and down from the yoga mat. And lots of the stuff, lots of the limbering that we do in yoga is done seated, or it's done in very vigorous movements. And so this is a different way to work. So if you're going to use a chair instead of sitting on the floor, you get the same effect. You're still sitting really tall. We still have that impetus to create a long spine, but we don't have to put the hips or the knees in a challenge or vulnerable position going up and down. So the first thing we're going to do is do our feet. So everything is connected in the body, as we know, because there are no gaps, but everything is connected. And so when you have issues with your knees or your hips, often it's related to the way that our feet are placed, and particularly if you have, I have knee issues and sacroiliac joint issues, back of the hips, and that's related to my hip joint a little bit as well. So we're going to lengthen one leg, remain sitting tall with the rest of the body, and spread our toes out wide as you inhale, and scrunch the toes up as you exhale. So spreading the toes wide as you inhale, Scrunching the toes together, closing just the toes as you exhale. Inhaling up, exhaling down, still a little softness in this long leg. Inhaling up and exhaling down. Now the whole foot. Inhale, draw the toes back towards you without over straightening this knee. And exhale, point the toes away from you. Inhaling up, exhaling down. Inhaling up, exhaling down. One more like this, inhaling up, exhaling down. And let's just gently place that foot onto the floor. I use a block because my chair's a little high for my lower legs. You can too if you want to, or a nice thick book. We'll do the other side. So again, inhale, spreading the toes. Exhale, scrunching the toes up. Inhale, spreading the toes as you sit tall. Exhale, scrunching. Inhaling up. Exhaling down. Tune in with your breath. Inhaling up. Exhaling down. We'll do one more. Inhaling up. Exhaling down. And now the whole foot. Inhale, draw the toes all the way back towards the body without locking the knees all the way straight. Exhale, point the toes away from you. Inhaling, toes back towards the body. Exhaling, pointing the toes away. Inhaling up. Exhaling down. Inhaling up. Exhaling down. We'll do one more. Inhaling up. Exhaling down. And then just stepping your foot back towards you. We really want the knee to be supported by the ankle here. So aiming for almost like a right angle in the knee here. So then we observe the effect of that practice. So you might be able to feel that in the muscles here at the top of the legs, and possibly, or more possibly, in the muscles of the lower legs as well. So we've worked the toes, a little bit of the foot, the ankle. We're going to make ankle circles now. So if you want, you can lift your knee towards you and hold around the back of your thigh. And if you lean back ever so slightly and firm your belly muscles, that might be quite comfortable to make circles with the ankle that is lifted off the floor. But if it's not so comfortable to do that, you can just lift your leg up. So you're using muscles to do this instead of using your arms for support. But for some people that actually suits a little bit better. But don't hold for too long in this position. So whichever one you want, with a little bit of help from the hands and leaning slightly back, firm in the belly muscles, or no help from the hands, still firm in the belly muscles, still sitting tall, just rolling your ankle a few times in each direction. You're going to let that foot come back down and observe the difference between the two sides, and then go to the other side. Often there is one side that is more challenged. So for example, my right knee has been operated on. It's the one that is my weak point. And I notice quite a difference in how the two legs behave and how they respond to posture work. It's just an observation. Okay, the sun's just come out wonderfully across the sea. And we're going to keep rolling the ankle a little bit in each direction, making sure that you're just changing directions every once in a while. Ankle mobility is very important to the way that we stand on our feet and the way our legs connect with our feet and the way that the spine is supported by the legs and the pelvis. So there we are. We've done both sets of feet and ankles, and now we're going to move on to knees. So one of the things that is often used to rehab the knee is a leg lift. So for this, you lengthen your leg and you want your heel to be pressed away from you and your toes coming back towards you. And then with the hands onto the hips, lifting your leg up to wherever is comfortable, probably not a great deal above your hip. and exhaling down. So we're going to inhale up, exhale down, still firm in the belly, still sitting tall, inhaling up, exhaling down, inhaling up, exhaling down, my chair squeaking, inhaling up, exhaling down. Let's swap to the other side, gently bending this knee in, checking that's okay, feels good, maybe you need to give your thigh a bit of a rub, extending the opposite side, firm in the belly, sitting tall, inhaling leg up, exhaling down, extending through the heel, inhaling up, exhaling down, inhaling up, exhaling down, inhaling up, exhaling down. One more for luck, inhaling up, exhaling down. That means I've forgotten how many we did. Okay, so now hopefully the muscles here at the front of the legs, the quadriceps, feel really warmed up, and your hip flexors too. And you can do as many of these as feels comfortable, but without overdoing it. So our next exercise, maybe you want to lose the block if you're using one for this, is a leg extension. So instead of having the leg straight and lifting, we're doing a leg extension. So taking the knee from bent to lengthened. It doesn't have to go all of the way, but just in and out. If you can, sit tall, just floating the foot off the floor. If that feels like a lot to hold in the thighs, then hold underneath the back of your leg, knees slightly back, flex your foot. Inhale as you lengthen, exhale as you bend. Inhaling, exhaling, inhaling, exhaling, inhaling, exhaling, maybe one more. Inhaling, exhaling. Now, if you can, stay in this position or with your foot just slightly off the floor, widen your opposite knee away from you and stir. Imagine you're stirring a large potion with your foot instead of a spoon. And we'll go in the opposite direction as well. Just taking care that this feels okay, doesn't feel uncomfortable. And when you've done a few in each direction, floating this leg down to the floor, observing how it feels differently to the opposite side. So now we'll do the opposite side, lifting the leg, flexing the foot for our extensions, sitting tall, inhaling as you extend, exhaling as you bend. Inhaling, exhaling, inhaling, exhaling. Remember, it's not about where your foot gets to, it's not about lifting the leg high, it's just a warming action for the knee and a engaging action for the muscles. One more, and then keeping the knee lifted, just moving your opposite foot out of the way or knee out of the way, making stirring action with your loose leg. And the opposite way as well. And if it feels too much to hold that off the floor, use your arms. You can break this down. You can do one exercise at a time and rest in between. No problem at all. Okay, coming back to the center, I'm going to put this foot down. Bring our 2 feet together and just observe how everything feels. So hopefully the knees feel warmed and loosened. And the thigh muscles and the hip flexors here feel really engaged. That would be nice. So before we do any crazy business with our hips, we're going to stand up. So before we do any seated crazy business with our hips, we're going to stand up and use the chair for a little bit of support to do some hip circles. So here, if you are using a chair at home, and you've got a slippy surface for your chair to move on, then it's a really good idea to put your chair against the wall so that it can't move when you're using it. You'll have more confidence to do the movements, and that will be good. So what we're going to do is, I have a lot of things on the floor, please excuse me, just pop them to my side. What we're going to do is stand with our chairs for support And you can stand facing your chair if you want to. I'm just standing this way so it's easier for you guys to see. The leg that is closest to the chair is going to be my standing leg, and I want my standing leg to be strong, and I don't want my hip to fall away from my ankle. So I'm going to look down my leg and make sure that my hip is over my ankle and have a little gentle bend in the knee. So not more than that soft bend that we did earlier. And then with the belly nice and firm, I'm going to start by making small circles with my opposite knee. So you can flex the foot strongly here if you want to, or you can just allow the foot to be soft, whichever feels more supportive for your joints. So for me, a flexed foot feels more supportive. And we're just doing a few in this direction and then going in the opposite direction as well. It's quite a feat of core strength here. So taking care to keep the tummy muscles engaged, and that will stop your other hip from relaxing too much. And then we're going to bring both feet to steadiness. Sorry, both feet to the floor, and observe the difference between the two sides. If that felt okay, you can do it again, but with bigger circles. So again, just checking your standing leg is over your ankle, firm in the belly, a touch of softness in that standing knee, and you can make bigger circles. And you don't have to make bigger circles, you can do another round of smaller circles. But the more practice you do, you will find that your range of movement improves, and you may find that you're able to access a bigger circle over time. Going in the opposite direction as well. And I have one clunky direction, this is my clunky direction. It's fine on the small circles, it clunks a bit on the big circles. And we'll do one more. Very good. So now standing onto both feet, I can feel the buttock of my standing leg has been really working with that one, which is good. And I'm going to swap my chair to the other side, or you can turn around. You might be doing this facing your chair and you won't need to move. That's all good. So making sure as you swap to the other side that you stand with your hip over your ankle and with your knee just a touch soft. Small circles with a flexed foot if it feels good. And just exploring movement here. We're trying to warm and lubricate the joints with these movements. They're also energy releasing postures. Go in the opposite direction. So if you think about something like acupressure or acupuncture, it is often to release blockages in our energetic system. These postures have a similar effect. They're called palm mukta asanas, if my Sanskrit is okay. Float this foot to the floor. A little bit of chat to distract you there. And just observe, maybe this side is easier to do, maybe it's less easy to do. So just observing, making sure that the practice you choose is appropriate for your body. When we come back to do this again, maybe you want to rest out, that's okay. Firming the belly, if you can, making your circles a little bit larger. And if you can do two, that's great. And if you want to do more, that's fine. And if you don't want to do any at all, that's okay too. There we are. We're going the opposite direction as well. Just keeping a little softness in that standing leg, firmness in the abdominal muscles. Maybe one more in this direction. And taking both feet to the floor. And here, just observing, I feel this quite a lot in my bottom. Maybe you do too. Okay, so to stretch or lengthen out some of our effort, we're going to do a downward facing dog variation with our chairs. So again, good to have it up against a wall if you have a slidey surface. Leave your hands on the back of your chair and walk your feet away. And you don't want your feet to be really far away so that you're leaning towards the chair. You want your feet to be underneath, slightly in front of your hips, so that when you bend your knees a little and lift your belly muscles and lengthen your tailbone, you come into the same position as you would be on the floor for downward dog, but using the chair. So taking a few deep breaths. If you are a little stiff in your shoulders, perhaps your head is above your arms, that's okay. If it is, just make sure that the back of your neck is lengthened and you're looking downwards, and that you're not looking up and compressing that space at the back of the neck. If you're able to get your head between your upper arms so that your ears are in between your upper arms, that's lovely. And that's a great place to be. But try to avoid letting your head hang too low. This is not quite so helpful. And it's really sagging into the shoulder joints. So bringing the head, if you can, slightly above or in between the arms. Draw your shoulder blades perhaps a little towards each other. You can even press your hands towards the chair to lengthen the arms a little bit more. We'll take one more deep breath in and deep breath out. And then looking towards your chair as you just lift a little, bend the knees a little deeper and walk towards the back of the chair. Awesome. Okay, so for this next exercise, I'm going to turn a little sideways. If you feel that you need a moment, some people feel a little lightheaded when they come out of that forward bend that we just did. So just take a moment if you need a moment. And I will explain what we're doing next. And you can join in whenever you're ready. So this time we're going to come up onto tiptoes. And we could do a few exercises to come up onto tiptoes, but just for this short practice, up onto tiptoes and then flex the foot of the leg that's further away from the chair. And we're going to gently swing the leg backwards and forwards. So a little firmness in the belly here, maybe a touch of softness even in the standing leg knee. Just swinging gently backwards and forwards. You want that flexed foot because you don't want your leg to hang. It's heavy on the hip joint. So flexed foot makes all of the muscles in the leg work to support the movement backwards and forwards. And then we're going to bring the two legs together and just float to the floor. And then still with the leg, still with the standing leg towards the chair, we're going to point our opposite leg forwards, stand tall, hand onto the hip or hand out to the side if you prefer. We're just going to draw a circle around behind us on the floor with our toes and then back to the front. This is more of a pointed toe, firm in the belly, and back to the front. Doesn't matter what your circle looks like, if it stops or if it doesn't go so far, that's okay. Lovely. Now let's see if we can add a little bit. So we're going to bend the foot across and take the leg that's moving, the foot to the inside or the outside of the opposite foot, close to the chair, and then bend across. See if you can bend your knee at the other side. So just a little. So if you've had, if you have knee trouble, this one might not suit you quite so well, but maybe it will. Just taking a go. It goes. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And then coming back to center, standing on both legs, just observing the difference between the two sides. I'm going to swap to the other side. You can just turn around. Excellent. We're going to come up onto tiptoes for our first exercise. Little softness in that standing leg. Flexing the foot of the leg that's furthest away from the chair and just gently swinging backwards and forwards. Firm in the belly. Also lifting your head high, letting your shoulders be down. The shoulders and hips are quite connected. So sometimes we notice that as we are using a little bit of stability in our hips, the shoulders creep up towards the ears. So where possible, drawing the shoulder blades down the back. When you're ready, you can float your feet to the floor. Still keeping a little softness in that standing leg, firmness in the belly, pointing your toe forward, and then making just like a semicircle. Toe comes from the forward, from the front, sorry, sliding around to the back. Very good. Brings me back to my days of ballet as a very small child. Very good. So if this one suits you, but the knee bending variation doesn't, you can just stick with this one. And then if you'd like to, you can add just a little bend of the knee as you draw your foot a little bit further round, and a bend of the knee as you go around the opposite way. So if you've had a hip replacement, this might not suit you quite so well. Generally, hip replacements don't enjoy turning of the hip, medial and lateral rotation. Don't mind a little bit backwards and forwards or out to the side and back. Not so much of the other. And then when you're ready, standing onto both feet and just observing the effect, the warmth, perhaps the movement. And then we will take another forward bend with our chair. So for this one, it's exactly the same. You're going to walk your feet slightly away from you, soften the knees, lengthen your hips behind you, lengthen your chest towards the floor so that from the fingertips to the tailbone is a nice long space in the body. And with a little softness in the knees, you've still got length down the back of your legs, but just not too much. If you want to, you can lengthen through one leg, sort of drawing one hip backwards as you straighten that leg, and then bring both knees back to a bent position, and then lengthen through the opposite leg. If you have done mat-based yoga in the past, this is called walking the dog. So it's just a gentle lengthening through one leg and then the other. And here we're also wiggling our hips a touch. If that doesn't work for you, then keeping both knees bent, just simply imagine you've got a tail and you're wagging it from side to side. And this can be a really nice practice to release tension from the low back. And you don't need to make such a vigorous movement if you don't want to. Be just a gentle sway. And if you want to, you can make some sort of circular motion, which can also be quite nice. It's quite hard to get that on camera, I imagine. But there we are. And then taking a moment just to rest in the center. And when you're ready, looking towards your chair, bending your knees a little deeper to walk forward. Taking a moment when you come to stand upright. Faces. So if you wanted to, you could complete your practice here, but there are a few things that are really useful to do that you can add to your practice. So if you'd like to spend a few extra moments, you can do this next part as well. But otherwise, you can switch the video off, spend a few moments reclining on the sofa or in bed or sitting on the chair, having some relaxation. Allow the body to come back to its state of balance before you move into another part of your day. So we can do a variation of the warrior pose, warrior one, by bringing our feet quite close to our chair and stepping back with one foot as far as you can. So it doesn't matter how open the space is, but taking a good step back. Particularly if you've got good mobility, it's important to use your range of mobility on a use it or lose it basis. So as you look down at your feet, you might want to hold the chair to do this. You don't want to have stepped one foot behind the other because otherwise it's very difficult to balance. So you still want your toes to be hip width apart. So the toes of both feet hip width apart, and you can always make them slightly wider if you need to. So we want length in both legs, but again, not really locked straight, just with that little softness on the knees. And we're not going to force the hips. So in lots of traditional or in the past in yoga, teachers have encouraged students to really ease their hips round to point the same direction as their front toe, which is great if you've got this rotation in the hips and it doesn't make any torsion into your knees. But now there's a little bit of a softening of yoga, particularly if you follow a teacher called Julie Martin. She's doing a yoga revolution. She says our hips aren't really meant to do those sorts of things. So we're going to allow our hips to be wherever they fall. Press into the back heel, so really focus the energy in the back heel, and simply, hands on the chair, bend the front knee as far as feels comfortable. So it might just be a tiny touch, but if you can, bend your front knee to the point where it's supported by your ankle, so it's over the ankle. That's actually a safer place for the knee to be than halfway there or more than halfway there. Oh, so over, if that makes sense. Okay, so back leg, just a touch of softness around the knee, pressing into the heel. And if you want to, you can gently ease some effort into your buttocks to tuck your tailbone a little bit under. Now, some people are very tucked under to begin with, so it's not so useful for them to do that. So if you find that you're already quite long in the low back, maybe that's not useful for you. But if you find that, like me, you stick your bottom out a little bit, then tucking your tailbone under makes this a much more comfortable position. Resting the hands on your chair back, firm in your belly, lifting in your abdominal muscle, lifting in the chest rather. And you can hold here for as long as feels comfortable. Perhaps it would be nice to use the arm of the leg that's back to give you a little open stretch all the way down that side of the body. And you can take that arm back as far as feels comfortable. And you can even, from a more central position, reach your arm over. So you get a little side bend here as well. And that's, again, very lengthening for this space just above the hip. And you can come back to center and then step both feet to the front and take a moment just to feel the effect of that posture. So it's much stronger than it looks, perhaps. It is for me anyway. And then we'll do the same thing to the other side. So stepping back with the opposite foot as far as feels comfortable, a good step. The back toes are pointing slightly out to the side, not quite directly forward. And just making sure that your feet are hip width apart still. Not overly rotating your hips forward, just allowing them to be wherever they are. And then keeping a little softness in both knees, firmness in the belly, hands onto the chair if you need a little extra support. Bend your front knee and press into the outside edge and the back heel. So outside edge of the back foot, back heel. See if you can bring your front knee over your front ankle. So ideally want to be able to see big toes. If big toes normally point forwards, if after many years of you wearing what my mother terms plinky plonkers, high heel shoes, your toes don't all point in the direction that you're facing in, then just adjust your expectations. So here we're holding and enjoying this opportunity for length across the front of the pelvis of the back leg, really keeping the awareness in the back leg, maybe tucking the tailbone under if it feels good. And you can play with that. You can wriggle yourself backwards and forwards in this position, find what it suits your body the best. And then if you want to, you can raise the arm of the leg that is long behind you and maybe take that arm back slightly. Open the chest, open the front side of the pelvis there. And then bringing your arm back to neutral, reaching your hand over to the opposite side of the body so you get a nice side stretch. And maybe that's just the ticket. For me, that's the money shot. That's where I feel that space being created over the hip, into the hip. Oh, lovely. And then coming back to center and stepping both feet to the front. Of course, you don't have to hold for so long if you don't want to. When we come back to center, we're just going to do a little gentle bob of the knees, up and down. If that feels comfortable, if that's too much for your knees, maybe sitting down at this point. Very good. And then just with the chair resting to one side, You're going to take the feet apart, and you can turn your feet out if that feels more comfortable. I prefer to have mine facing a little bit forward. A touch of softness in these, just a touch. Hands onto the hips, and we're going to wiggle our hips around like a belly dancer. Awesome. So if you want to, you can keep the rest of your body very still and just move from the hips, if that feels comfortable. And if you prefer, you can put your whole body into it, or as much as you would like. Whatever you're doing, go in the opposite direction as well. Remembering always to keep a little firmness across the belly. And if you did small circles, you can do both, of course. Both kinds of circles are fine as well. And then coming back to steadiness. Aces. So, for those of you who do not have a tremendously large hip issue, you can do a standing spinal twist. And so for this, you are going to stand facing your chair, but with your chair back on one side. So let's say it's the right side. Your chair back is going to be on the right side, your right hand will be on your chair back. You're a pace away from the seat of your chair, and then step your right foot up onto the seat of the chair. So this feels a little bit like the warrior pose that we just did, but we're going to use this for a standing spinal twist. So if this is too high, you could use a stack of books, a little bit shorter, or a stool. One of those stools that children and grandchildren use to reach the sink in the bathroom is ideal, sort of in between height. Or a pair of step ladders might have a step on it, but a little bit of support if you can. Firming the belly to stand tall, back leg, a touch of softness in the knee. You're going to reach your left hand out to the side, and then draw your left hand across your body to your right thigh, and it can, not the knee, but the thigh, and then just gently use your hand to turn a little bit into your twist. Now, if you want to, at this point, you can swap your hands, so you can reach your left hand to the chair back, you can reach your right hand forward, and you can increase the sense of twist by opening the right hand back behind you and getting a little bit more rotation through the upper back. We're not trying to twist the hips too much here, although you can let a little bit of movement come here, but most of the movement in the shoulders. Wherever you get to, relax your shoulders down, lengthen your head up, and you can turn your head into your movement as much as feels comfortable. That touch of firmness in the belly muscles. After a few deep breaths, you can bring your head and your hand back to center, and then step your foot down. Okay, so that might feel really good, and if it does, we can do it to the opposite side. Aces. I might go this way. Very good. So now we're left side. You can go around your chair, of course, for that. Just a pace away from the chair, stepping your foot up onto your chair, your stool, or any other kind of support, as long as you've got some support to your left side as well. A little softness in the back leg, and then firm in the belly, standing tall. Reaching your right arm out to the side, and then across your body to the outside of the left leg. And that might be enough. You might use your arm to just turn into your twist. Maybe having your hand on the chair back really helps. Otherwise, you can swap your hands, right hand on the chair back, left hand out in front, and then use your left hand to draw a big semicircle around to wherever feels good. So you're reaching your left hand back, firmness in the belly, lengthening through the crown of the head, and use your arms to move into your twist, your upper body twisting. And whenever you get to where you're going, soften your eyes, maybe half closing or gazing downward, softening your shoulders, breathing a nice deep breath. When you're ready, you can return maybe with the head first, and then returning the back arm, front arm, stepping onto both feet and observing the effect of your practice. A little moment in stillness here. When we stand in stillness, you don't have to stand without effort. You're lifting the energy from the center of the feet all the way up to the crown of the head. Maybe drawing your shoulder blades together, maybe turning your palms forward. A touch of lift in the belly muscles. Closing your eyes if you feel comfortable, or gazing downward if you prefer. When you're ready, bring your hands together at the center of your chest. Lift your chest, take your chin only towards your chest, and just enough to feel a gentle stretch. Maybe down the back of the neck, across the top of the shoulders, or between the shoulder blades. Smile to yourself. If you don't feel like smiling, fake it till you make it. Smile to yourself. And when you're ready, raising your head, releasing your hands, and opening your eyes. Excellent stuff. So the light's really fading now, and so it's probably a good time to bring this class to a little bit of a close. But before we do, perhaps a nice forward bend. So if the twist that we just did standing up doesn't suit you because of lifting your leg, you can actually do this twist with the knees together, feet on the floor, arms wide, and just twist to one side and hold for a few deep breaths. Come back to the center, twist to the opposite side. Hold for a few deep breaths. Come back to center. You will achieve a similar effect. So let's take our feet a little bit wide. Obviously the knees are nice and bent here. You want to be at least halfway onto your seat for this forward bend. So to begin with, you can sit tall, firm the belly, and then just gently slide your hands down your knee, down your legs, across your knees, as far forward as feels comfortable. Legs are wide to allow the body to come between them. And if it feels comfortable, you can go all the way, provided you've still got bottom on the seat. Not the whole bottom, but at least some support from the seat. And when you come into your forward bend, perhaps it feels good to allow the crown of the head to hang. But if you can, roll your shoulder blades a little bit towards each other to create a little bit of stability in the upper back. If you want to explore, you can let the shoulders come forward and drape yourself all the way forward, and then allow the shoulders to come back. If you can easily touch the floor, you can turn the backs of the hands to the floor. It's quite nice. Or you can just rest the palms. You might rest the palms on the ankles or on the shins. It doesn't matter. I'm going to take a deep breath in and sigh out through your mouth. If that feels good, you can do it again. Sorry. Deep breath in. And then to come up, press into your feet, particularly into your heels. Firm your belly muscles and just allow yourself to roll up one vertebra at a time until you're up into a seated position. And if you feel heady, just taking a moment. And then when you're ready, reaching the arms out and up, lifting the chest. Breathing in, stretching the palms towards each other, and as you breathe out, bring the hands down to the center of the chest. Namaste. Okay, so this is the time to do a little relaxation. And for relaxation, I encourage you to sit all the way back into your seat or choose a reclining position. And you can recline on the sofa as long as you have your back supported, or perhaps rest lying down in your bed. And after yoga, we want to do at least 7 minutes of relaxation. because that is the minimum time it takes our body to release effort from the muscles. And it also allows the energy which we've moved and expanded, the space we've created, everything just to come back into our center. So when we move from our yoga space into life, we move from a point of balance. So I won't teach relaxation on this video, but for relaxation, just settle yourself into the back of your chair. You can place your hands wherever feels comfortable. If you're on a different support, settling yourself there. Closing your eyes and just taking a moment to soften the shoulders, soften the features of the face. And a great way to do this is to take 3 deep breaths. So a deep breath in, sigh through the mouth as you exhale. Feel the tension ease from the chest, from the face. Deep breath in. As you exhale, relax all your effort. Last deep breath in. And as you exhale, surrender your weight into the floor, your support. And then with your eyes gently closed, allow your breath to find its natural, spontaneous rhythm and fall away into silence. Take your awareness into your forehead, feel it soften and spread. Feel the area around your eyes relaxing. Your mouth, tongue, and jaw releasing. Allowing the whole body to feel heavy, warm, supported. Your energy moving down. If you like to focus on your breath for relaxation, you can create a natural rhythm of deep breathing, releasing tension and relaxing a little deeper with every exhalation. If you prefer, you can put on a piece of music that you enjoy listening to. Nothing too vigorous. I have some beautiful harp music that I love, or some Sanskrit chanting. And just observe the vibrations of the sound. Sound is very restorative of our energy, healing for our bodies. The right kind of sound, of course. If you have a mantra, you might like to repeat your mantra. Just spending a few moments in relaxation. And that's where I'll leave you now, saying namaste. I hope you'll join me for another video soon.